Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Near Darling, and shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today? Relaxing as per usual. Late night episode because we had a bit of a D&D session. We had a full-on D&D session. It was relatively chill. I think it was more like the aftermath of a battle, if anything. So there's nothing like particularly crazy about it, I don't think. But yeah, it was more like learning about some things here and there. But good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 11:09 PM on Friday, February 7th, 2025. Where basically this campaign, at least the way I see it from a more meta perspective, is that they've basically been introduced now to every lead or interest point, and now it's sort of like, which parts are you going to take further? Which parts are you going to try and find out more about? Because there's like obvious signposts, like this person is suspicious, this place is suspicious, this thing is odd. Is at least how I put it, sort of like a detective game, where it's like, okay, you've got the list of clues in front of you, which of these do you think is high priority? And then, I guess once that's sort of figured out, I'll just be like, okay, well, that's the stuff I guess I'll prepare for. That's just kind of how it goes. But it's not like I haven't thought about what's going to happen for all of these cases. I do know what's going to happen. I just like haven't pulled up like materials or whatever for it, or thought about what battles or things they might run into necessarily, specifically. But yeah, apart from that's a pretty chill session. It's almost been like an entire year since the first session of both campaigns. I think the first session of both campaigns must have been start of March or something, which I'm actually on holiday for. Start of March. I think I've spoken about this before. But yeah, and I know I mentioned it before about like wanting a joint session between the two campaigns to sort of celebrate, just for a bit of funsies. And I feel like the 1 year celebration is a good time for that. So that's going to be happening probably in a couple of weeks. And basically, I was just spending the time to make sure I tell both groups. And it's going to be a bit interesting because it's not quite outside of canon, because it's going to be something which canonically happens, but it's not going to be something, at least this joint session is not going to be something which influences each other's campaigns that much. I won't allow it to necessarily. It's more just for the fun of it, to basically come together as a group and be like, yeah, let's celebrate D&D and have a good time. So that's certainly a lot of fun. Not what I'm going to talk about for the rest of today, because the things I would talk about, to be honest, from today's session is like I would want to give context behind some of the things, but it's spoilers, so I can't. I'm sure my players have theories, and I'm sure my players have ideas, and probably, quite possibly, even have the correct ideas of what's truly going on in the first place. But of course, that's a different thing from actually discovering it and solidifying it for yourself. But yes, if anything, it's raised, I think perhaps one of the biggest things is that this campaign has a DM PC in it, which accompanies them, which was a decision which was for about a while back and discussed. And so far, she's seen very sort of straightforward, like very just kind, patient, sweet, essentially. But now we've seen, I'm not going to say a completely different side of her. The side has always been there, but there's been no situation which has really brought it to light. But now, in this session, something interesting has happened. Something very dramatic. Which, yeah, ended up occurring. To give a different, to at least sort of plant the seed, is the intention of like, something might be going on there. What is it? Do they care? That's up for them to decide. Maybe they don't care, whatever it is, in the end of the day, in which case I'll be like, right, that's totally fine, you don't have to. That is such the nature of D&D, is that not every plot point is going to be explored, because they're not going to care about every character to the same degree, right? Or every location, or every whatever have you. And that's totally fine. They are the arbiters of their own destiny. So whatever they end up making the main quest themselves is what happens. But yes, unfortunately, that means for the Animal Crossing sort of like talk back when I talk about D&Ds, I can't really talk much about it because it's all lore spoilers, which the intention is that they discover eventually, just like the same sort of like rule and idea I use with all the player characters is that all the player characters in one campaign will discover all of the player characters' secrets throughout the campaign. Hopefully sooner rather than later, so then there can be a bit more collaboration over story arcs rather than running individual story arcs in parallel with each other. Essentially, it's more like we sort of like braid together. But yeah, so yeah, unfortunately, I would love to talk about the world D&D for the next whatever 20 minutes, but cannot, unfortunately. But what can we talk about instead? I know what I can talk about is the Valorant shop. I checked it yesterday. And I played a bit of Valorant, and like I'm actually having quite a good time, like just playing very casual team deathmatch and team deathmatch, outside of the times when we have these intense games where I play like the actual ranked matches with friends. Not that I don't like ranked matches, but I mean I've talked about it before, where I was like, I'm pretty sure my aim is now becoming prohibitively bad, which is now like stopping me. I'm not going to say stopping my enjoyment because I still enjoy it, but it's like come to a point where it's like this is noticeably like so bad that I feel like it fundamentally is like changing the way like I play. Like I'm like not looking for fights when really I should be at least trying to, and thus I'm not getting better. So I'm having a nice time sort of basically checking the store every now, like during the day I'm playing like a team deathmatch or something. I might start playing regular deathmatch, right? Because the team deathmatch, I've realised after playing yesterday, it's like all the fights I'm taking are like really, really quite long distance fights, which is not, I think, necessarily indicative of how you would actually play, but it is fun. But I was checking in because I wanted to buy a gun skin. The only gun skin which I would ever consider buying would be the Evore Dream Wings bundle, which is basically like what are they called? Sailor Moon style. That's not what that genre was called. Magical Girl style cosmetics, I guess, for the guns. Is how to describe them. Star Guardian, if you use League of Legends terms, Sailor Moon for generic anime terms, Madoka card character, Sakura. I don't know any others, but that sort of thing. You know that entire genre. And those are the only skins I would ever have wanted to buy. So I check in with the store because for whatever reason Valorant has a rotating store, which is definitely very frustrating, but I mean I guess it takes after the Fortnite model, which was very successful with it. Which is honestly a bit sad, if anything, because it means that the bundles are limited time, so things like the name cards come and go, and it's like you can never get them again unless you played during that one exact period, and I'm like, why? Like, I understand that limitation definitely breeds people to want to like purchase things, being like, I might miss out, FOMO, etc, etc. But like permanent FOMO is something I always felt like is counterintuitive in the sense that it's kind of like you want. Again, we're going like down a financial thing, because while I don't like it as a consumer practice, I find the game theory, I suppose, the ideation behind it fascinating at the same time. Sort of like a dark fascination, like other people, maybe they watch like true crime documentaries. This is mine, I suppose, is it? Capitalism. But like, surely the best way to make money would be to make them think like it's going to be limited, like truly limited edition, but don't actually make it limited. Because if you make something truly limited, that's just like permanent sales. You're not going to get, right? Sorry, a little pause. Yeah, we're talking about like the sort of false scarcity with these rotating shops. Anyway, I never actually got to what I was talking about was the fact that last night I checked and I was like, whoa, if you have already Dream Wings, Ghost is actually in the store, and yep, I bought it. If anything, I'm a little bit sad that I couldn't get the bundle. Not so much that because of the amazing discount you probably would get from a bundle, but I can't get the name cards anymore, and I can't get the gun buddy that comes with it, and the titles, you can only get the gun skins. I'm like, that seems like a bit of a shame. Like, I understand the concept of exclusivity, but I also thought that it ended up being established that you want exclusivity for a while, and then it turns out that like true exclusivity is worse for business or something. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of using gacha games as my example because that's what I feel like I'm one of the biggest proponents of, like, exclusivity are, because everything's on like this crazy fast rotating schedule, limited availability for whatever item, character, etc. is. And the way to go about it is you have it limited, but make sure that it comes back, but you just don't know when it comes back. And technically that is what it's doing with a rotating store, but also parts of it are just truly limited forever, right? Like, so you can't get the parts of that only came with a bundle, because you can't buy the bundle ever again because the bundles have never come back in store. So it just kind of surprised me, if anything, that was the case, because it's like, oh, like, it's a true limited item, which feels surprisingly rare. I feel like every game eventually comes back to be like, oh, that limited item turns out not as limited as we said it is. We're going to start selling it again or something, but it's always like it costs more, like you can only get it in certain situations, etc. I'm not saying it's like a good monetary practice. I mean, obviously it's good financially for the company, but it's like not, it's very anti-consumer is what I mean to say, which is not great. But it's sort of a thing where I'm like, oh, you know, maybe that's not the case. Because that's how I always understand it. Because if it's true limited, that is basically saying we don't think we're never going to sell this product again, right? We think that the promise of that outweighs the fact that no one in the future will ever be able to buy it. When ideally what you'd want is you want all the people buying it when they think it's limited originally, and then you re-release it later or whatever, and then people buy it then as well, because then it's sort of like you're double dipping. That's how I'm thinking about it. Like, if it was like an optimization problem to be maximized or something. Now, whether that's actually true or not, I guess I don't really know. That's just kind of what I assumed, but I suppose that must not be the case then, or maybe not the case for Valorant. But it's interesting, because Valorant takes after Fortnite, which has this rotating shop model, which is intensely frustrating, because it's something like you have to check in every single day to see it. But like, the whole reason it exists is because many people will be like, okay, if it's a store that you can buy whatever you want, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to buy the thing that I want. But if it's rotating, then it's like, okay, then I'm going to have a short list of the top 10 things I want, and I'm going to buy whichever one comes along first. And then anytime anything comes along which supersedes the thing that I've already got, I'll buy that instead. It's like, obviously people don't think that robotically or mathematically, most people, but that's fundamentally how it works, right? Probably not top 10, probably like free skin. But like, oh, these are the free skins I want for a Vandal or whatever, and you see one of them, it's like, well, it's my least favourite of the free, but I still like it and I want it more than I want nothing. So you buy it anyway, and then like your favourite comes along, whoever knows when, and then you're just like, oh, now I actually got to buy it. Because when is it going to come back? It's like limited, but it's not truly limited. It's just going to take forever to rotate through again, and that's kind of the point of it. It also has you checking in every single day, so I understand that draw of it, but I'm surprised that didn't apply to also the other parts of it as well. Like, I guess it's kind of surprising. It's weird because they're both so anti-consumer, isn't it? This sort of like true limited things and this rotating shop, that it surprised me when I was like, oh, this anti-consumer thing is like, I guess it surprised me when I was like, it's so surprising that this game is doing like true limited sort of things which are not like tied to ranked or whatever. I don't know if Fortnite even does that anymore, because I feel like the things that used to run in old battle passes, like, you can get again, can't you? I don't know, maybe Valorant needs to be out for a bit longer before you can start getting those again. Yeah, it just, like, I mean, talking about it is weird, because it's like, wow, I can't believe they're not doing this anti-consumer practice, they're doing this anti-consumer practice instead. And we're not even going to touch League right now, like, or whatever's going on with anti-consumer, where we've taken away the free skins and then released a video. Like, that's clearly very predatory. That's the direction I think Legends is going into. I've never seen as much uproar about like the monetization system until now, though. Like, if I can take it from the perspective of people, of the companies optimizing the monetization system, I can take it from the perspective of the viewer as well, the consumer also, like, looking at it and pondering the situation, because I find it also very fascinating that, you know, monetization things are always like trying to push it basically as close as possible to being the most expensive without like losing, you know, customers or whatever like that. But it seems like this time maybe they're actually gone, I'm not going to say they've necessarily gone too far. League is definitely a thing where it's not technically too big to fail, but it is pretty big, and it will be have to be pretty big whatever it is which takes it down. yeah, what I was going to basically say about it is like like there's a lot of people rightfully outraged about the situation. So it's just kind of like, oh, you know, I guess people are actually like quitting the game now. Like, was this a step too far for them? I guess it was. Who knows? Whether or not it genuinely will be or not, I mean, again, this is only outrage that I see on Reddit mostly because I don't go on any other social medias to look at league news. So perhaps it's not particularly reflective, as it never is. Reddit is a very, very tiny portion of the actual player base, but it is fascinating. People are very upset at this sort of thing, which I think is good. People should be. Like, if something is anti-consumer, especially in a way that they don't like or don't agree with, then yeah, they should stand up and be like, hey, I'm not gonna take this. That's totally fair. It's just surprising because, like, it's almost like you're sort of playing chicken. You're being like, how close can you get to a point of like, oh yeah, we're not going to stand for this anymore and not go over, I guess is what I mean to say. And the answer in this case, I suppose, is you get kind of close. And eventually you do hit whatever that boundary you might say is. And in this case, I guess it was this. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't really know. I'm not sure there is a good or bad for it necessarily. Well, no, that's not true. I guess it is just bad, but it's just more out of a surprise, if anything. Curiosity, shall we say. But yeah, it's not in a bad way, just sort of like a, huh. The outrage is palpable, it's genuinely there. Let's see if it ends up holding or if it doesn't. That's, I guess, what I mean by it. But yeah. What else can we say about it? I suppose that's kind of like the main thing I was even going to talk about in the first place. And I guess on that note, I guess we'll round this episode up here because I have nothing else to say. Fascinating, isn't it? Anyway, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now.